So you and Amanda are like donezo?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't do this to my worst enemy.
I would never do that to my worst enemy. Those were her exact words. And she said them like somebody who's done crying, done explaining, done pretending everything is fine. Sierra Miller is out here in France looking like freedom itself, and she is not holding back anymore. You already know what I'm about to say. You saw this coming. We all did. The friendship between Sierra and Amanda Batula. Gone. Finished. And not in the way where maybe someday you patch things up over coffee and pretend it never happened. No, this is the kind of done that settles in your bones. The kind that doesn't leave a door cracked. But here's the thing though. The Amanda and Wes situation, as messy as that was, that's almost the smaller part of this story. The part that's really eating at people, the part that doesn't get talked about enough, is what was already happening before any of this blew up publicly. And that's what we need to get into today. Because there's a clip, a resurfaced clip of Wes Wilson that a lot of people either missed or just conveniently forgot about. And once you see it, once you really sit with what he said, you're going to understand why Sierra's anger goes so much deeper than a love triangle. In the clip, West was asked a simple question. If you could fire one person from the show, who would it be? And without much hesitation, he said Sierra. He framed it as getting the awkward stuff out of the way. Now look, was it a joke? Maybe. He'll probably say it was. But you know, just like I know, there's always a little truth wrapped inside what people call a joke. Always. So let's think about this carefully. Here you have a woman who was genuinely vulnerable with her cast. Sierra defended Amanda through hard times in Amanda's own marriage to Kyle Cook. She cried on Amanda's shoulder. She trusted these people. And the whole time, one of the men she was tangled up with emotionally was, at minimum, joking about having her removed. And the woman who was supposed to be her closest friend on that cast, she chose him anyway. That's not just betrayal. That's a setup. And now West wants to sit in interviews and break down the relationship timeline like some kind of confused philosopher. He talks about how they never had the talk. He says he screwed up introducing Sierra to his family because he wasn't ready to commit. He says they just got to separate places. You know what that sounds like? It sounds like a man who knew exactly what he was doing and is now carefully constructing the version of events that makes him look the least terrible. Here's something I want you to think about for a second. West admitted in his own words that meeting his family, even without a commitment conversation, is a gesture. His word. A gesture. He knew that. He knew what it would mean. And he did it anyway. So what does it say about a person who knowingly sends signals of commitment to someone they're not actually committed to? What does that make you? I'll let you answer that one yourself. Now I want to slow down here for just a second, because this part actually gets to me personally. I've had a friendship fall apart before over something that on the surface seems so small it was almost embarrassing to even explain. And for the longest time I kept thinking, how did we get here from that? But the truth is, and I think Sierra knows this too, it was never really about the surface thing. It's about what the surface thing revealed. What it showed you about who someone actually is when it counts. Sierra didn't lose Amanda the day the West thing came out. She lost her in every quiet moment before that when Amanda knew what she was feeling and kept sitting across from Sierra anyway, pretending to be on her side. That kind of slow betrayal is the worst kind. Because it rewrites every good memory you thought you had. And she can't take that back. Amanda can't give that back. So now here's the part that should make everyone uncomfortable. West is 31 years old, not 22. Not some kid figuring out who he is, 31. And he's out here giving interviews about how he probably shouldn't have introduced Sierra to his family and how he maybe could have handled things differently and how they just sort of drifted apart. That's not reflection. That's distance management. That's a man carefully saying just enough to seem self-aware without actually being accountable for anything. And the clip. Let's come back to the clip, because that's the thread that ties everything together. If West was willing to publicly, even jokingly, name Sierra as the person he'd want off the show, what does that tell you about how he saw her? Not as someone he deeply respected. Not as someone whose feelings he was being careful with. As an inconvenience. As the awkward thing he'd eventually have to clean up. Actually, let me rephrase that. Sierra wasn't just betrayed by Amanda choosing West. She was surrounded by people who, at best, tolerated her and at worst were already planning the exit before she even knew she was in the building. You can't take everyone with you. That's what Sierra said, and that is a woman who has done the painful work of seeing people clearly. No filter. No wishful thinking. Just the truth of who showed up for her and who didn't. The reunion just aired. We're gonna get the full picture soon. But here's what's already clear. Sierra walked in knowing what she lost and knowing she didn't deserve it. She walked out with something a lot of people never get, and that's clarity. Real, unshakable clarity about who belongs in her life and who was only ever there for themselves. West has Amanda now, and maybe that works out for them. But you know what he also has? A public record of being the kind of man who jokes about firing the woman he's emotionally entangled with. The kind of man who sends family meeting signals without commitment. The kind of man who needs 3 months and a full breakup conversation to realize he was never really present. And Amanda has her choice. She made it. In front of everyone. So here's what I want you to think about and tell me in the comments, because I genuinely want to know. Do you believe that West's joke about firing Sierra was really just a joke? Or do you think that clip tells us everything we needed to know about how he actually saw her this whole time? Because I know what I think, and something tells me, so do you.